did a little bit of a teaser before that last break and told you about what we might be hearing about in court coming up. There's an attorney, Sarah Azari, who Eric goes on national TV and argues with about this case like all the time. And I was talking to her on Twitter over the weekend, and she claims that Buster Murdaugh may be taking the stand to talk about, you know, what the family does when they arrive at Alameda. Where do they go? Where do they go in? What goes on? So she claims that Buster may answer a lot of these questions. The defense isn't commenting on what they're doing or who they're calling. We know that they're going to be calling some experts. So I want to know, Eric Bland, since you spar with Sarah all the time, she tells me Buster's going to be testifying. What do you think of that?
I don't think he will, but, you know, she may have a better pipeline in the defense. Certainly my discussions with Dick Harpootlian have really slowed to a crawl since all this began. He and I used to be pretty close. But I don't think it's relevant. I think the timeline on the OnStar is relevant. And, you know, what Alex did and what Buster does when he goes to Alameda is two different things. We do know that he went behind the house. We do know that Michelle Smith was correct, that he was only there for 19 minutes and 34 seconds. She said 20. We do know that Alex, according to her, tried to get her to say that he was there 30 to 40 minutes. And we do know that he slowed down as he was leaving the property, which looks like he either placed a phone call or a text to Maggie. And the question is, was Maggie's phone already in the woods? Because according to the OnStar, he slowed down to 40 miles an hour from, I think, 58 or 64. Where the exact spot of her phone. So I'm not sure what Buster can offer. He wasn't there the night of the murders. He can't offer anything about that. He could talk, I guess, about his own personal habits or when he was with his father. But the fact that he's going to say that's the way we came in, I mean, that's not going to help Alex ultimately. What's going to help Alex is if they can prove that there was a second shooter or that he didn't do it. But you know, right now, all the evidence is pointing him. All the direction points to him. He didn't nail Cousin Eddie. He told them on the roadside shooting that Eddie had nothing to do with Mizell. So it wasn't the Cowboys because they asked about the Cowboys and drug gangs, and he said no. He didn't say we're being targeted or anything. He kept on saying it's people weird. Involved in the boat. It's the boat. It's the boat people. The boat accident.
I do think it's weird that he said that he said, no, it wasn't the Cowboys, it wasn't Cousin Eddie, they weren't involved in Moselle. Like, I thought that was really bizarre. Like, how do you know? Let's get to our next question. Michael Bryant, Linda T from YouTube asks, if Maggie was exploring getting a divorce, can't the prosecution seek information about that? I had people asking me about that on Twitter as well over the weekend. Would that still be privileged? Say she did meet with a divorce attorney. We've heard no testimony at all that indicates that she was thinking about that. Her sister said that, you know, things weren't perfect or whatever, but that she was happy.
Yeah, there was that story before the trial began that roughly 6 weeks before the murders, she had consulted with an attorney. Obviously, you're not going to be able to learn the contents or context of that consultation. But the fact that she just went to see an attorney for that purpose, that would be discoverable. But we never heard anything about it. So either it didn't happen or there was nobody that they could get to corroborate that it did happen. So I think that's, you know, it just fell flat. It's something. Just like when we learned that she found out about the pills and started investigating what those were by searching the colors and the names on the pills, that's something. But the discord in the relationship, it never really panned out.
Here's another question, Gigi, for you that I think is really interesting because it goes to what Michael Gunn said on the stand. Rachel Hamilton from YouTube asks, why was Michael Gunn sending a group text to Alec on the night of the murders? Gunn claimed they were not friends. Did he actually know more about the financial crimes than he is claiming? I was kind of wondering that too, because if you're not really close with Alec, why are you sending him a group text with an attractive woman's photograph in it?
Yeah, that seems to be what all of us were kind of asking that day that came in about the text. And I've seen a picture of it. Yeah, I mean, maybe he does. And I don't think we've seen the half of people who are going to be implicated along with Alec for financial crimes. So maybe that's something that comes in down the road. But yeah, I mean, you could chalk it up to just a bunch of dudes texting a bikini picture back and forth, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think it's weird. And I think a lot of people, once everything started coming out about it, they're like, oh, yeah, I wasn't really friends with him. You know, we may have had some business calls, but we weren't pals. Like, text messages might tell a different story. Catherine Hunter from YouTube asked, do you think the shotgun double offload, the double aught load, I mean, that was first shot at Paul knocked down Alex, which caused him to be shooting the birdshot round from the ground? Why was it from such a low angle? Eric, I know that you're not a ballistics or, you know, crime scene expert, but a lot of people have that question because it does appear that that second shot to Paul, to poor Paul's head, because this is horrific, it seems like you'd have to be down low. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Only that that is a plausible explanation, that there was some kind of physical altercation there. If you listen to the Snapchat video, he says something like, oh, Dad, and there may have been, you know, some kind of pushing, or, you know, when you go to grab a gun and you shoot it the first time, you may slip. You know, it's not an easy thing to shoot a gun, you know, especially if you're doing it in haste. And he very easily could have taken a knee or slipped, or Paul grabbed the barrel, and, you know, that's what caused him to be on the ground to shoot upwards. But I don't think Dick's going to be able to convince the jury that it was a 4'10" person who shot him, as opposed to somebody who's 6'4". I just, again, that's just spitballing, and spitballing isn't reasonable doubt.
You know, and Jeanette, along those lines too, I had somebody in law enforcement explain to me that after that first shot to the chest that Paul took, it could have knocked him back a bit. And we know that Mr. Kinsey, or Dr. Kinsey rather, when he was testifying, had Paul going down at an angle. Alex, he's a hunter. He could have shot from the hip. Paul is not standing up straight. He could have shot from the hip. It doesn't mean he had to be on the ground. So I think too, you've got that aspect of he's getting knocked back. He's favoring one side. And come on, Alex probably been shooting a shotgun since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. So I don't think it's unreasonable. He just fired from the hip. Maybe at an upward angle, but he didn't have to be laying down, I don't think.
Yeah, somebody joked with me the other night that, you know, maybe it was Tattoo from Fantasy Island. I don't think that was the case, but we just don't know what happened. There's so much we don't know. It does seem like an odd angle, and you don't know what's going on if somebody shoots somebody with a shotgun. And poor Paul, they said that was not going to, he could have survived that chest shot, okay? And so he's probably saying things, and they said he took a couple of steps toward the feed room door. We don't know what went on, but all I know is that it was horrific, whatever it was. Catherine Small from YouTube asks, this is a good question, Michael Bryant. Why would Cousin Eddie agree to commit a murder when he could get into so much trouble if he actually killed Alec? There are so many questions about this. You know, Alec Murdaugh's like, yeah, I asked him to shoot me and he said, okay, do it. So what on earth? Why would Cousin Eddie agree to do that?
Yeah, you got to get in Cousin Eddie's head there, which is probably not a good place to be. And he was going to do it for free. You know, it's like, sure, I'll kill you, no big deal. It makes you wonder what the relationship really was between Alec Murdaugh and Cousin Eddie, whether it was related to drugs and the sale of them or just the acquisition of them. There's something more going on here, unless Cousin Eddie is just that stupid. That to have his relationship with Alec Murdaugh, he'll do whatever that guy asks him to do. I guess that's possible. I just think there's so much more we don't know about that relationship.
I think you're right about that. And a lot we don't know about what went on the side of the road that day, because it really doesn't make sense. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to more of your questions. I'm Ann Jeanette Levy. You're watching Law and Crime.